Tuning in to We the People with Tricia Flanagan. I'm here as your host, and I have everybody's favorite director, everybody's favorite producer here with me, Michelle Albergo. Welcome to the show. We've got a lot to cover tonight, don't we?
Oh, don't we always have a lot to cover tonight? Every night, Tricia, right? There's always something going on. But yes, we do have a bunch of things to do tonight.
Yes, we do. And as we speak, the polls have just closed in Georgia. We have that all important Senate race in Georgia between Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker. We know that unfortunately, we did not take the full majority in the Senate, but this is still an important seat because we have to have as many voices for freedom as possible for the people in the U.S. Senate. We did get the majority in the House, which is excellent news. There's a lot of discussion about who's going to be the new speaker. The best news is that we took the speaker's gavel out of Nancy Pelosi's hand for good. But, Herschel Walker needs us to pull him across the finish line. The polls are closed. So we're going to try to bring you up to the minute information as we receive it. But in the meantime, what we have is a very special guest tonight. This is someone who is working hard for the abortion, for the pro-life cause, to really not just make sure that Roe v. Wade is enacted in every state in the country, but also making sure that in those states where there is still abortion that's legal, that there are options for women. That's something that's very near and dear to your heart, isn't it, Michelle?
It's been near and dear to my heart my entire life. What Scott, and we're going to introduce him soon, but what Scott does here with the Community Pregnancy Clinic in Naples, Florida, and also throughout other locations in Florida, is it gives women an option. A lot of women don't understand that there are options. It's not just, well, if I'm in a crisis situation, the best thing to do is to terminate a life. That's just not the right thing to do. And there's other ways that we can work with these women to get them through this so that they can have their babies. It's huge. I wish these programs would be pocketed all over the country, in every county, in every state, in every city, because when I do speak to people, a lot of people don't know that there's options out there, but there's always something. And I know that Scott and his organization will hold the hand of that woman and walk her through and right to the end till she has her beautiful little baby.
Oh, amen. And that's something that is God's mission. We the People are so dedicated to that, dedicated to walking it out, and dedicated to supporting people like Scott, who's going to come on in just a few minutes to help him make sure that he has the resources available to make that all important decision for life and to support women, because that's what it's really all about. It's God's precious work. So before we introduce Scott, we want to introduce a quick new segment that we're introducing on We the People. It's called Science Bites. And those of you who have been following me and Michelle know that we're both, to a certain extent, healthcare professionals. Michelle more than me. Michelle has experience directly working with patients as a clinician. I'm a biochemist. I'm more behind the microscope. I'm a biochemist in immunology and oncology. And you know that in this season, where the left, where the anti-science voices and where the medical tyrants are going to try to bring you in, what they're going to try to tell you is that, oh, you have to get a vaccine to be able to keep yourself safe from COVID, which at this point is just a common cold. It's not that that isn't taken seriously. If you're elderly, if you have other concomitant healthcare conditions, certainly you want to be prepared in the best way possible. But we at We the People don't think that that's through a vaccine, and I have solid science to support that. And Michelle has, as a healthcare provider, she has a perspective on that as well. And what we want to try to do with Science Bites is bring you the real science, the real perspective, the truth when it comes to how your immune system works best when it's challenged by antigens, when it's challenged by pathogens. And in fact, something that's in the news right now is that there's a seeming resurgence of RSV and the flu. Well, yes and no. We know that that's true by the numbers, but I don't think that the data supports that there's any more flu in the in the environment what it really is showing is that there are more who are vulnerable to the flu and RSV. Why is that? Well, that's because of lockdowns. That's because the medical tyrants mandated in many states that people locked down, hunkered down, and did not get out to challenge their immune system with normal pathogens. Well, the human immune system needs that to function, not just function properly that way, but to function optimally. And so now you're seeing what is expected. It's not really an issue of COVID or an issue of more flu being out there. It's really an issue more of people who are not prepared with an immune response because they haven't challenged their immune system and kept it in peak performance. And please stay tuned because we have something that is going to be coming to market very, very soon. Can't talk much about it now because it's still in process, but it's something that is going to keep your immune system fit and ready to tackle anything that comes your way. Stay tuned for that. But Michelle, from a clinical perspective, what do you think of this nonsense that the healthcare, the tyranny on the left, the medical tyranny, the medical dictators are trying to convince people that they need to get a vaccine, which further depresses the immune system? What do you see on the clinical side of things?
I mean, don't get me started on this, but our Florida Surgeon General certainly has it correct. But they're calling medicine and healthcare is nothing more than power, control, and money. None of it is science-based. None of it is backed by any data, because if they were following it like you and I were, they would have been following the data from Israel, from Germany, from England, and before the data, the common sense wasn't even used. So we're going to be practicing real science, not political science, not popular science, but real science. Because right now the medical community, for the most part, there are exceptions to that, are failing the public by promoting at this point what they call a vaccine that doesn't stop the transmission of the virus and it doesn't prevent you from getting it. So my question is, why is anybody getting this vaccine? And I say vaccine in quotes.
Right. No, and you're 100% right. And as I said before, stay tuned because we're going to be tackling the real science on these science bites that we're going to be bringing to you. There's a lot more to come. We're going to be talking about the mechanism of action of the vaccine, how there's clear data that shows what you and I have been talking about since the beginning. I said right out of the gate that there's no off switch on this mRNA technology. More data has come to light to support that, and I think prove it pretty much beyond a doubt. And we're also going to be talking about the developments of, you just mentioned your Surgeon General there in Florida, Surgeon General Latipo, and your great governor, Ron DeSantis, are both going to team up and hold vaccine manufacturers accountable to the full extent of the law, not just the law as it exists right now, but we have an opportunity with a Republican Congress now to change that law and to actually hold these vaccine manufacturers accountable at a higher level. But even still, even in the absence of that legislation, we encourage everyone out there to look at options. We'll never tell you what to do, but we will tell you how to do something if it's an option for you. And legally speaking, because the Biden mandates were deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, you now have an opportunity to hold employers responsible who mandated a vaccine that was neither proven nor fully approved by the FDA. We'll get into that a little bit. You can hold healthcare providers accountable. There are a lot of other ways to get to this vaccine accountability than just with the manufacturers. We hope to get there legislatively, so that opens a floodgate for all of the full throttle lawsuits to go right after the manufacturer as well. But in that meantime, you can hold other people accountable if you were forced to get a vaccine that was neither approved nor now that is being proven to not be safe. So we're going to have more information. We have had the Fired Up Texas attorney on in sessions previous, and he is going right after these lawsuits as well. So if you want to connect with him, we're glad to facilitate that as well. But stay tuned, because we also are going to have something that is going to keep your cells and your immune system quite fit. And, stay tuned for that exciting news. We'll have that over the next several weeks. But that being said, let's not waste another second and let's bring on our guest. This is Scott Baier. He's the CEO of Community Pregnancy Clinic. Welcome, Scott. Thank you for joining We the People.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
Well, Scott, great to see you again.
Yes,
Here,
and
Michelle.
Michelle, I know is very, very familiar with your work. Maybe Michelle can talk a little bit about what you do, and then you can jump right in, Scott, and talk about the great work that you are doing to support women who choose life instead of the most horrific options that are out there.
So Scott's got, I think, the coolest job in the world, because basically what Scott does is he saves babies. So and that's it in a nutshell. And I can't say enough about how touched I am by the work you do at the Community Pregnancy Clinic, and your dedication to life. And it's inspiring. And I'm so happy and proud that you are stationed here in Naples and in several other locations in Florida. So tell us a little bit about the clinic, Scott, and about what you guys are up to right now.
No, thank you so much, Michelle. And by the way, saving babies is a team effort for sure. So I'm blessed to be part of a great team, a great mission here in the state of Florida. You know, we've got the largest group of pregnancy resource centers in the state, with 7 clinics, 2 in Naples, 1 in Fort Myers, 1 in Sarasota, across from the regional headquarters of Planned Parenthood, the largest so-called non-for-profit organization in the world. And also at the University of Florida in Gainesville, we have a clinic right on the campus, on the north end of the campus. So we're really blessed to be in a position where we can, again, as you guys pointed out at the beginning in the comments, of offering women real choices. I joke and I say, yeah, I'm really pro-choice, in many ways. I'm all for women choosing what college they go to, what jobs they get, who they marry, who they date. I'm really pro-choice. But let's talk about the choice that they want to use as the euphemism of abortion, and it just changes the whole framework, because we know that's not, informed consent. They're not telling women, the harm that's done, not only obviously to the baby, but to the women themselves. So we know that a woman who unfortunately chooses abortion has higher rates of miscarriage, has higher rates of premature birth and future births, breast cancer, mental health issues. Dr. Brent Bowles is one of our advisory board members, who's really an expert. He's got great research. He's doing some meta research analysis of the rates of mental health issues of women who choose abortion. And I want to stop there, because I know anytime I'm speaking in public or to groups of people, something along the neighborhood of 1 in 3 people, men and women, are directly affected by abortion, right? So I want to just put that out there, that we are a medical mercy model, not with judgment, not with a sense of shame, but to walk with people, right? Before, during, and if they do choose abortion, we're going to be there for after them to help them. I'm working with a group called Support After Abortion, and my group is with men. And I'm telling you, there is such healing that's needed, because unfortunately, the average woman who chooses abortion today, it's not their first abortion, right? It might be the second, third, or fourth. So our model is based on mercy, a medical mercy model. So we're medical clinics. We offer ultrasound for free. We offer, obviously, pregnancy tests to verify the gestational age. We're doing STI testing, which is, as many people aren't aware, is a true epidemic in our country. That's why we're really focused on the university model, which I hope to maybe talk about some more. But the biggest piece of this is, again, medically accurate information, so they get true informed consent, so they ultimately make the choice, right? But as you pointed out earlier, Michelle, that most people who are in stressful situations, I was in the Army, right? So I understand stressful situations, and tunnel vision happens. So all of the things that we might look at as, hey, that's an option, this is an option, they're not seeing that, right? And so they're reduced down. So if we open up the horizon, and we have some beautiful nurse managers, some counselors here across the state of Florida that are just really experts, right? And just being there, present with the woman, and then opening up those horizons. And that takes time. There's something called attachment theory, where a lot of women, are attached to their partner, all right? They don't really have an attachment to that baby yet, right? So they're more inclined to choose. And some studies are showing what happens in the first 2 years of a woman's life will predict whether or not she might be more, have a higher propensity to choose abortion. So there's a lot of psychology going on. There's a lot of attachment theory things happening. But when they see the ultrasound, and we know that for us, it's about 95% of women who see the ultrasound will choose life. So that was really the miracle of the pro-life movement. And what scares the opposition so much, right? They're scared of the ultrasound. In fact, we have a story up in Sarasota. I won't, give specific names of the clinics in the Planned Parenthood, but it did not let the woman see the ultrasound. That's against state law, right? So she demanded I want to see the ultrasound picture. They said no. She left crying. Sidewalk advocate brings or offers to walk her over to our clinic. And it turned out she was told she had a miscarriage, by the way. This is a true story. She told she had a miscarriage. She actually had live twins. You can't make this stuff up, right? So we know that that's an industry based on raising money, right? It's called not-for-profit, but we know, like I said, it's the largest not-for-profit in the world, and it's government funded, government protected, government sanctioned, right? And here we are as a nation funding this with our tax dollars. So as you pointed out, we are designed to be there for women. And thank goodness, right now we're outnumbering pro-abortion clinics by 3 to 1 around the country. Many people, you pointed out as well, 80% of women don't know what's available to them in their own communities. People ask me all the time, well, I didn't know even what a pregnancy resource center is, right? And this is part of the problem because it's got to be preached from the pulpits. It's got to be in the culture. And I think as the left gets more and more dark, Winston Churchill had a great quote, right? He said, it's not the end, it's not the beginning of the end, but perhaps it's the end of the beginning. And I think we're there now because as the left gets darker and gets more open, right, with this clear evil, whether it's abortion or whether it's transgenderism, if they're not getting the babies in the womb, now they're getting them outside of the womb. Right, sterilize this. So we go down a lot of rabbit holes, and I'll send it back to you. But there's a lot of forces at work, right? And here's this woman and this man. Don't leave out the male, right? Because a lot of times they don't feel like they have a voice, and sometimes, I have one man I worked with where he was just called by his girlfriend and said, "I had the abortion," and the anger and the pain and so forth. So a lot of avenues there, but I'll throw it back to you because we could go in a lot of different directions.
Well, I'm so excited by everything that you said. I want to take pieces that, to kind of like bit by bit. And I know we have you for 45 minutes, so I want to address as much as possible because I'm so energized by everything that I am hearing. I know that Michelle and I both are devout Christians. We're both mothers. Michelle's a mother of 2. I'm a mother of 3. I speak openly about how I actually am a mother of 6. I had 3 miscarriages. So I know those babies are in the arms of our Savior. But I believe that that nurturing instinct that you're talking about is unique and it's precious and it's divinely given. I believe I've never been politically correct. I'm not going to start now. I am going to say that women are uniquely endowed with that nurturing instinct, with that bonding instinct. When you know that you have another life in your body, there's the your soul sings. But there have been women, for whatever reason, you mentioned the first couple of years of life, for whatever happens, there are some women who have been abused, perhaps. They have been commandeered by this evil that says you can separate yourself from your baby, which we know is not true. Walk me through, if you would, kind of a snapshot of how you're able to have success, how you're able to, not just with the ultrasound, but with the counseling, with the love that you can give, and how can you and how can we all help you to get women who are in that situation more in touch with that divine place within them that I believe all women have, and some may have chosen to just ignore. But how can we get it back to them?
That's wonderful. No, great question. And so, using Christianity, right, the example of Christ at the well with the woman, right? He didn't just dive in and tell him, "Hey, I'm the Messiah and I've got all your problems fixed," right? It was a conversation. It was slow. It was almost methodical, right? A question and a response, and this dialogue is what we've got. Often we need to get them to slow down, right? Because in panic mode, they want to speed up, and they want to I got to make a decision now. You know what? You're okay. You don't need to make a decision right now. Let's just pause and let's. And I love this quote. We always say this. Unless a woman feels lovable, she's not going to be love able. So you bring in the faith part there. Some women do have faith, but in that moment, it's tunnel vision, and they're not feeling the love that God has for them. They might often not have the love from family members or partners or parents who are maybe pressuring them to get the abortion. So the first thing I would say is be slow down. And again, I'm privy to see and to hear the stories of the counselors and the nurses that are doing this process each and every day. There's lives being saved every day around the country, around the world. And I'm so blessed to be able to say in our clinics every day. But it's a woman who needs to feel loved so that she's now going to be more love able. I would summarize. That's a great quote. I just love to share. But it's slowing down. It's also kind of, again, getting them to see the bigger picture. Right? Tunnel vision that's real. They cannot see outside. So when we say things like, "Hey, you know what? What are your concerns? You're worried about material assistance. How are you going to, all those things that come along with being a parent." I have 5 kids of my own too. So I can share, I'm sure we all have the stories of, how are we going to send them to college? The baby's not even 2 yet, right? Or not even 2 weeks old. I'm worried about college. So we need to then say to them, "Hey, for 3 years, we provide material assistance." So I've got diapers right here, actually. So we say box to bottom is from the box of diapers to the bottom of the baby in 2 weeks, but we'll provide diapers for free for 3 years. How would you think that would help? And of course, it opens up horizons. But it's not just diapers, it's clothing, it's community resources. See, we know that we can't be all things to all people, but there are groups in the community who can do things that we can't even do. So this network that's developed over the years since 1973, when Roe was unfortunately, the law of the land. And we'll talk about now what it is like now, because I think we're pre-Civil War in terms of post-Dred Scott, slave state, free state, and we can talk about the politics of it. But back to that compassion and the resources. So there's some clinics, they'll hold a baby shower for the mother. And when they start, we had one couple who said, "You know what? We've already got 2 kids. We can't have a third because our car's not big enough. What if we got you a new used car? What if we found a supporter who's willing to help you with the used car? I think we'd have the baby." It's sometimes the most mundane thing, but in that moment, it's everything. So we've got to get them to slow down, see the options, and open up those horizons, because I believe nobody wants to have an abortion, right? No one, like you said, the maternal instinct is not to kill your baby, right? And no judgment on those who have unfortunately chosen that, because you said it comes from a place of hurt and pain, not feeling loved. And so we want what's best for the baby, of course, but we want what's best for the woman. And we believe that's going to be to ultimately choose life. And the gift that God gave her is there, and it's ready to come to fruition. And God's plan is ready to come to fruition just with that simple yes.
When you said that just now, it made me think of that yes in this Christmas season that Mary gave
Her
to the Holy
fiat.
Spirit when she said, "Let it be done to me according to thy will." And if we can put that message out to every woman that there
Yeah.
is a way and that you are helping to make that way,
Yeah.
that will be what overrides the fear and lets that love blossom that's already there. I believe in every woman's heart. It just has to come to
There
fruition.
you go.
But talk to me a little bit about, you brought up another important point about the father in this equation. And just as I believe God created women uniquely to be mothers and nurturers, I believe that God created men to be providers and protectors. And I believe that real men protect babies and they protect
Mhm.
women. Part of that is providing for both. And so, I think through a number of Democrat policies throughout the decades, we've seen a fractionation of the family that was facilitated by the government and by legislative means. But share with me, if you have a capacity within the work that you're doing to bring the father into that mix, and also to empower fathers and embolden fathers to follow their God-given mission and course of action when it comes to a life that they helped create.
Yeah. And so one of the realities we know that secular progressivism has destroyed the family, right? And one of those aspects, we're in a crisis of manhood, as I'm sure you are well aware. I go back to the biblical reference there, though, that when Adam and Eve, right, were in the garden, Eve, yes, was dialoguing with the serpent, but where was Adam, right? The answer is he was there. He was there and he didn't use his voice. He didn't use his voice. So this goes for male and female is we have a quote that we say, we're going to educate the heart, right? One of our phrases, we're going to educate the heart. And, we need to be the voice for the voiceless, right? As a movement, as a group of clinics and, people who want to help people choose life. But that person, that male or female, has the voice within them, right? God's beckoning them to do what's right and to be called forth. But men have been shattered, right, in our society. I grew up in the '80s, so video games and everything else that became this egocentric, false sense of masculinity is just so men are ripe, right? And so, unfortunately, a lot of men and women who come through our doors are coming from broken homes, right? They don't have that father figure. They didn't have that person to give the example. And so part of our effort is, and we often only do see the woman. There's an example, right? So, and the first question is, where's the dad? Where's the dad? And like I said, I'm working with men support after abortion. And one of the things we're finding is there's a variety of stories. And oftentimes, there just wasn't the communication between the man and the woman. And so, for example, one couple that we had who actually chose abortion first time, second time got pregnant. And in a counseling session, the male said to the female, to his partner, I thought you wanted me to tell you to have the abortion last time. And she said, I thought you wanted me to have the abortion. They had never talked about it. Like, these are kids. Unfortunately, kids sometimes having kids, young teenagers or even 20 something. So the power of truth and communication, we have to teach these skills, right? So one of the things we do is we have a lot of online courses that, during the pregnancy, obviously for basic pregnancy, life matters and so forth. Then after, offering them the ability to kind of grow in virtue and grow in their capacity to be better moms and dads. But unfortunately, we don't often see the dad because the mom is doing it on her own, or she doesn't feel supported. And there are those horror stories. I hate to say this, but you get the child traffic or the human trafficking aspect, right? So you've got these guys who are, obviously forcing someone, the woman, to have an abortion. And you have other ones where the male is just, I stand in front of Planned Parenthood sometimes and stand there and peacefully pray. And you see the guy in the car while the girl walks in. All right, that's someone who hasn't had an example of what being a real man is, which is to step up. And oftentimes women will say, if he had only said that he would be there for me, even if it doesn't mean marriage, he would support, she would have had the baby, right? So it's so important that we do reach out to men. And here's where we say, abortion's a symptom. And unfortunately, it's ugly, right? It's a horrendous part of our society. So we try to be more proactive. So let's get into the schools. Let's get into colleges, right? And so we have a SHARE program, which is sexual health and relationship education, which is now, look what Planned Parenthood did. They knew that they had to get into the schools, right? So that's why you see, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they're building trust, right? You may have come across the website ROO, ROO, which is Planned Parenthood's artificial intelligence, bot-driven questions to answer, answers to questions about gender and about life. Within 3 questions, they get a mentor, someone on the phone that would talk to them. Right, this is being offered in our schools around the country. It's horrible. So The opposition knows that sex ed became the sales portal, abortion became the product, and our prospects are our young daughters. Their prospects are the daughters among us. So it's really an industry, and we've got to inject into the schools things like virtue and things like sexual health and relationship, social media awareness. So we have two people, Pam Stenzel up in Gainesville, who is a world-renowned speaker and goes around the world. And she's a contractor with us talking about these issues. And we have a new person here in Naples who's going into the high schools, going into the middle schools and colleges. Her name's Catherine, doing a great job. So we're trying to really hit both sides. So we're not just playing whack-a-mole on this side, but we're trying to address some real issues that need to be put forth with truth and love and compassion.
I'm so energized by what I am hearing, because I think it's exactly what's needed for a thirsty world that doesn't want to commit these atrocities. I agree with you. I think that it's evil pulling in one direction, and you are forcefully pulling in the right direction, and you're doing God's work to save these precious babies, and you're getting into the places that have been ceded to the enemy for far too long. Look what happened when we gave up the fight with the schools. We gave up the fight in Hollywood. We gave up the fight to some extent on social media. Now I think we're clawing some of that back. But I think that the blueprint that you're creating is exactly what we have to do. We have to engage. We can't cede any more ground. And, talk to me, kind of theorize with me a little bit. If we can get into every school, and I know that that's an if, because there are going to be school systems that fight tooth and nail to keep their stronghold. But it's certainly not insurmountable. We know at the college level, I mean, look what happens with speakers, like even controversial speakers like Ben Shapiro. They try to shout him down and keep him out. What, theorize with me, hypothesize with me, if we could do this across the country, what kind of attitude is necessary? Meaning, is it something that we have to kind of go, send out an army and get somebody in every nook and cranny, or is it like a pull strategy? Meaning, create the right answers and be inviting and let those people come to you, or is it a combination of the two? What are your thoughts on that? How you can expand what you're doing?
That's great. No, I'm a history buff, so I look back in history and you can see a parallel, obviously, with the Holocaust in Nazi Germany, and we could go down that area. I would focus here, though, on slavery. You go back to England with Wilberforce, who, was tireless, right, for year after year after year, joins Parliament to try to get the political side. But not until people saw what slavery was. If you've ever seen the movie Amazing Grace, where he had people from the community go on the boats, right, and smell the smell and see the reality of what slavery was. So abortion, unfortunately, and I'm not advocating, for holding up pictures and signs everywhere or something like that, but people need to get out of the apathy. So apathy is the enemy. All right. So people are not aware of the sheer numbers of how badly we are losing right now in terms of the numbers of abortions worldwide. This is from a Lancet article last year that estimates somewhere between 50 to 75 million abortions happen every year. If you do the math, that's 200,000 a day. Right. So Stalin said, a million deaths is a statistic. One death is a tragedy. So we can't just use statistics, but just get people to be aware. Do you know how bad this epidemic of abortion is? It's way bigger than most people realize. The other thing they don't know is actually what takes place, right, in terms of, and this is coming from our doctors who have left the abortion industry. Of course, people like Abby Johnson, who work for Planned Parenthood, hearing in the boardrooms that we're going to have 3 abortions. They're hoping for 3 abortions for a woman by the time they're 30. This is their marketing strategy, right? So when the mask is unveiled, which is happening right now, I believe, people are now more aware, all right? Because they can no longer say, oh, it's just a clump of cells. Science. You guys spoke about science earlier. Embryology is clear, right? The human life begins at conception, right? And I always throw out Horton Hears a Who. Person is a person, no matter how small, right? So the scary thing now is people accept that and still say, yes, but we have the right as a society to destroy that innocent human life. And for the average American, and this is where politics comes in here, because a lot of people said, oh, well, the red tsunami happened because people were too pro-life. It's not true. You look around the country, the governors who tightened up the restrictions on abortion all were reelected, one after another, right? The politicians who wavered, who scrubbed their websites weeks before the election from their pro-life stance, right? We need to see firm, resolute. So back to Wilberforce, he got the newspaper journalist. It was called the Clapham Estate, right? Someone funded it, and they met on a daily, weekly basis, talked about how they're going to inject in society, business, education, right? It's an all or nothing strategy. So there's no quick fix here. In the meantime, I would say we're going to be like Desmond Doss, my favorite movie, Hacksaw Ridge. He's going on the mountain, saving soldiers from both sides of the war, just saying, Lord, give me one more, right? The Jewish proverb, save one life, save the world. So, and while we're doing the strategy, which God is going to help out with, because ultimately it is like slavery, when the 14th Amendment, right, said that every person, right, cannot be denied, right, can't be denied life, liberty, or property. And as with Declaration says, pursuit of happiness. All right, that was God saying, yes, this is what I've ordained the United States of America and truly the world to be behind. But until then, we've got to just go help each person one by one. So it's kind of, it is tiring, and it is sometimes overwhelming. But at the end of the day, we know we have truth on our side. We know the left, in this case, the secular progressivists, that, and again, maybe in a future show, go to Margaret Sanger, right? What is it? Ideas have consequences. Bad ideas have victims. And that's what we're facing right now, the consequences of some really bad ideas in history.
Oh, 100%. And when you talk about Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, and she was a eugenicist, in my opinion, she was no different than the eugenicists that served Hitler. It's the same philosophy. And to your point of, the 14th Amendment covering the protecting life, liberty, and really, the pursuit of all things that we hold dear in America, that's exactly what, in my opinion, what this Supreme Court restored. What this Supreme Court says was, yes, in fact, these tiny lives are people. They are American citizens that deserve to be protected by our charters of freedom. And I think that that moment was blessed and ordained and planned by God for a time such as this. He hears the tiny voices cry. And whenever we vote, I would urge everyone listening to tell everyone you know and sing it from the rooftops that when you vote, you are being the voice of those millions of little lives that were taken. But the hope is that we can restore that freedom across this entire country. So I can't thank you enough for what you're doing. And tell us this, tell us how we can help you. How are the people who are listening, how can we all band together and help you in your current work and help you to expand it, as well as help to get your message across to everyone who needs to hear it?
Yeah, no, I think people have to just first of all, be aware of what's in your area. So wherever you are listening to this podcast right now, within a short distance, there is a pro-life organization that's there helping men and women and families. So first of all, be aware, show up at the door or give them a call and say, hey, can I come by and get a tour? Get involved, get educated, get involved. And that, that's critical, because nobody can do it on their own. We needed to do it as a team. And then secondly, I think it's, the time, talent, and treasure, right? So I've got, we have 2 mobile units that go around, right? So we have volunteers that assist the ultrasound tech to go on the mobile unit. I have one volunteer who just says, I'd rather be here than at home. And she's knitting or crochet just to be there as a support. And there's people that fold clothes and all that stuff. And then there's people who are actually getting involved as volunteers, as mentors, right? And so those opportunities are waiting for people out there who feel called. I want to do something, but it's such a big thing. What do I do? Take the next step, right? Back to Wilberforce, he had the famous quote, "Let it not be said that I didn't do something. Let it not be said that I didn't do something." I remember when I was in Germany, a quick story, there was a woman who was, alive during the Holocaust, and she was seeing the trains come in, and she was a German family. And we asked her, I was a soldier, and we were talking to her conversationally. He said, "What did you do? Like, did you know?" And I'll never forget the look in her eye, a tear dropped from her cheek. Um, Very quickly, a tear dropped, and she said, "Of course we knew, but what could we do? But what could we do? Because if we said something, we lost our livelihoods or our homes and so forth." My answer then was compassion, right? And who am I to say that she didn't do the right thing? But we can do something, right? So like Wilberforce, let it not be said we didn't do something. And that might be different for everybody who's listening, but I would say pray about it. And then locally, I would say we have our event every year. Michelle's well aware, and she'll be coming. This year we have Kaylee McEnany on February 25th at the Ritz-Carlton Tiburon here in Naples. And it's exciting because she just had a baby. So I'm telling
I
her,
was gonna
bring
say
the
she
baby
just,
as a prop.
yeah, yeah, that's her second, I believe.
It
Yeah,
is. It is. So yeah,
yeah.
we're excited about that. That's on February 25th.
Oh, so exciting. And before I ask another question, I want to encourage our audience. If you're watching on Facebook, you can ask a question. You can type in a question, and I want to read. We have some folks that are tuning in. We have our dear friend Patricia Pastor, who has been in the hospital recently. So we want to take a moment to send her our love and our well wishes for a very speedy recovery. She's such a dear friend to the show. We see our friend Ramon Hernandez and Dina Castillo that says, "No such thing as pro-choice. It's pro-death. Plain and simple." And she's exactly right.
I
And
agree.
if you're watching, if you have a question for Scott, please type it in there. We will read it on the air, and Scott will be happy to answer it, I'm sure. And I want to just touch on something that you just said that I thought was so powerful about the woman on the train. What could she do? And it's, while it's true, one person, I would argue one person can do something, could always do something. But think of it, if we all stand together, if we all vote together. And I want to share some tough love with our viewers, because you mentioned, and we can all attest to our scientific knowledge, that life does indeed begin at conception. You see it in your daily work. The minute that that spark of life hits that cell, it is a new and unique human life. The scripture says that God formed us in our mother's womb. We are all unique. He has a plan for each and every one of us. I want to speak to the group of Republicans typically that will say, well, you know what, up to 12 weeks or is okay. Or, it's okay. They are personally pro-life, but they don't want to tell somebody else what to do with their body. It's not their body. It's not the woman's body. The DNA is unique and separate and different. It's a whole other life. But speak to me, if you would, about that interim period that some people say, I say they're still pro-choice, because you're either pro-life from conception to natural death, or you're pro-choice. Talk to me a little bit about what you see, and in your experience, what those early weeks
Mhm.
show about what actually and truly is a unique and God protected human life.
Yeah, I'm going to echo Dina too, because I fall into the trap of using the euphemisms of the left, right? There is what is pro-choice, right? It really would be ultimately you're against life, you're pro-death. So I want to reaffirm Dina on that. But yeah, we know that, as any embryology textbook, right, will say that the human being, now what the left tries to do is say, okay, I admit it's it's a human being, but it's not a person yet. Right. And then you get into, this is why, politics and culture and faith, it's not either or. We have all of the above. We've got to merge them. This is ultimately a spiritual battle. But sticking back to the science of it, it's a human person, right? And it has everything it needs to grow. At what point, if it's not a human person at conception, fertilization, at what point does it become, right, a human person? And that word person, that's why I think in Florida, there's something called the Human Person or the Human Life Amendment Act that's going to be hopefully in 2024, they need lots of signatures for that petition. Ultimately, the nation, I think the Supreme Court needs to enforce the 14th Amendment and clarify when personhood begins, because right now it's born rather than at conception. But we know that the baby has everything it needs at that point. It's separate, distinct entity from its mother, right? So when a woman says it's my body, my choice, we know it's not logical because there are two bodies. We say there's one sacred space and two human persons, right? So that mother is carrying this life. What a gift, what a momentous responsibility it is. And so the science is on our side again, truth is on our side, but I like to go back to this is really a spiritual battle, right? And so I don't negate politics. I don't trust politicians often. I'll be honest. We've been jaded so much, and the ones who say, "Hey, we just have to kind of go slow." And I talk to a lot of state reps and people that are actively involved, and I hear this, "Hey, no, we don't want to push the boundary." How's that working for us, right? 50 years of that not working, right? And then look at, say, Trump, the most pro-life president in the history of our nation. Did he back down on pro-life? No, he appointed the most pro-life Supreme Court justice, which enabled Roe to be overturned. So we need strength, and we need people who are willing to step up and take the hit, right? Even if it's going to maybe lose some political points. God wants it. So a lot of people, there's Psalm 105, some Bibles is Psalm 106. It connects politics with this issue. And it basically starts off telling the Israelites, you have offered your sons and daughters up to the demons, God says. And at the end of the verse, or the end of the passage, it says, and I will hand you over to the nations, and I will place over you those that hate you. How's that? That's really what's happened. We've done this terrible offense as a nation, sanctioned it, funded it, protected it, and we expect to have God's blessing, right? So I think the politicians out there need to hear, do the right thing, because we will all be accountable for what we did or didn't do, especially those in public office. And I'm going to be controversial here, but okay, like you said, you got to say it like it is. Florida is number 3 in the country for numbers of abortions, right? 80,000 abortions pre-Roe being overturned. It's actually, I'm going to shock our viewers, it's gone up. It's gone up since Roe was overturned. Why is that? Because Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Louisiana all have stricter laws than us. Florida's become a destination state, not just for the beaches, but for abortion. That needs to change, right? So we have a supermajority now. Come on, DeSantis, you've got aspirations, right? You've got a supermajority. So the talk is maybe there will be a special session that will address this, but I believe he didn't think Texas was going to hold the 6-week ban, and it did. It stood the test of time. So, but to your question, let's incrementally move, right? If we can't end slavery all at once, well, we're going to get, more and more laws that are going to protect more and more babies. Ultimately, the answer has to be protection at conception, fertilization. And until then, I think we can't expect God's blessing on our country.
Hey, Scott,
I agree.
I got a quick question for Scott. Locally here, right here in Collier County, I'm thinking there's a very good chance now that we actually might have another shot at making Collier County a sanctuary county for the unborn.
Yes.
So
yes,
I'm thinking
more counties that can do that, send the message, right? Because again, the left likes us to be weak and cower, right? They don't want strength. And the more counties, the more cities, say, not on our watch, not here. They're scared right now. They're having trouble finding.
I think if we get started here, we can embolden the other counties to follow suit, and then put the pressure, obviously, on Tallahassee and get this done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. With your supermajority, this should be the ideal time. That's really going to take that governing majority out and see how it rides. And like you said, Scott, if Governor DeSantis has aspirations, I hope that's in 2028. I would love to see Trump 2024 or sooner, and a DeSantis presidency in 28. But whenever it is, however it happens, this will prove to the conservative base just exactly where his heart lies when it comes to protecting the unborn right from conception. And I think, look, I'm bold. It's no secret that I think the best way to do this is to seize your opportunity. It's not going to get to look any better than this. We have the court, the Supreme Court, that overturned Roe v. Wade, and we have these supermajorities in many state legislatures. Why not? If not now, when? Let's stand strong and firm and say we will protect life from conception to natural death. Because the other side of this, even Mother Teresa spoke of this, that if we do not protect the most vulnerable, then it's just a matter of time when life becomes completely meaningless on the latter end of life. And we see some of that happening in Canada right now. They're letting murderers out, but if you stub your toe and can't walk for 6 weeks, they're offering to help you with suicide. So do you see that's kind of intertwined, that if you respect life at all phases, you're going to be more likely to protect the elderly and the vulnerable, right?
Yeah, and many people don't know, going back to history again, another pro-life president, Ronald Reagan, if I asked them, hey, when did Reagan become pro-life? Because he wasn't, right, at the beginning. He actually passed a pro-abortion piece of legislation early on as governor, and it was Mildred Jefferson. I should have done a little quiz to see if anybody knew in the chat. Mildred Jefferson was a Black doctor who spoke, I can't remember what show it was on CBS. He heard her speak eloquently on life, right? And wrote her a letter saying, I wish I had heard you before I passed what will be my last piece of pro-abortion legislation. And from then on, he was pro-life. But I have her quote right here because I love this quote, and I'm memorizing it now. But she said, today it's the unborn child. Tomorrow it is likely to be the elderly and the incurably ill. But who knows later? It could be anyone who holds views different than the established order. I mean, there it is. It's almost like Niemöller in Germany. First they came from the socialists, and I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't say anything. They came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't one of those, so I didn't stand up. They came for the Jews. I wasn't a Jew. And then they came for me, and no one was left. So we have to see this reality of life and liberty really joining together. And it's a beautiful momentum, I think, right now. You said this is the opportune time, and the left knows it. That's why you're getting the Jane's Revenge threats yesterday in Nebraska, vandalism on churches and so forth. This is their sacrament. This is a spiritual reality for them, and it's in jeopardy, and they know it. And again, evil's being unleashed to protect it.
I think you're spot on, and I believe that, and I believe that it's scriptural in its foundation, that there will be a revival before the full moment of the end times, if you will. And I think we're in that moment of pending revival, and I think that this is the moment when we can set hearts aflame with this kind of passion for what's right and for protecting, the unborn. And I agree with you that a nation that does not do that will not be blessed and will be brought into judgment. And I think that the choice is clear. We are at that moment in human history where I think that God is ready to stand up. I think he already has. Like I said, with when you mentioned Amy Coney Barrett, not everybody loves all of the decisions that she makes. I think she made a bad one about Obamacare, for example. But I've always thought that she was put on that Supreme Court to be the Deborah of our time, and she has been such a voice for the unborn through her entire legal and judicial career. And it's very poignant that now that she sits on the Supreme Court, she was, I believe she was that deciding voice that tipped the balance. So, we're in that moment, but I believe revival is imminent. The latter rain that's been prophesied in the Old and the New Testament, I think that it's about to happen. And I think blessed will be those who fight for life and those states that make it happen legislatively. And we as a country, if we can pull together, America will be blessed in this moment. So I want to share one comment from Ramon Hernandez. He said a woman that he encountered claimed that abortion is a woman's right to choose. And he asked her, doesn't a baby have a right to live after a heartbeat? And I think that that's something, he's such a strong man for God. And I think that that's something that every man should be asking and fighting for. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would just share Psalm 30, Psalm 31. I'm sorry, Proverbs 31:8, that we have to speak for those who can't speak, right? Speak on behalf of the voiceless. And so, Ramon and all of us, we have an opportunity. Our grandkids and our great grandkids are going to ask us, "What did you do during the American Holocaust?" I'm convinced that that question will come one day to each one of us. What did you do? Like I asked the woman in Germany. If we can say we spoke for the voiceless, we're going to be blessed in a way that's going to help our nation and help our own souls. Because again, apathy is not an option in these times. Let's take that hill. let's march forward with confidence, with God at our side and actually leading the way. We just need to follow His will, and He's going to do great things through a remnant of people who are ready to say yes. And so I hope that's you and all of your listeners. We can do
Oh,
it together.
amen.
Amen.
Amen. We're thankful for great, strong men like Ramon. We're so thankful and grateful for men like you who are leading this charge for life. Tell our viewers, where can they get in touch with you? Do you have any social media that
Mhm.
you'd like to share where we can follow you? And then if somebody wants to volunteer or donate, help you with your cause, where can they do that as well?
Yeah, so my heart's always for potential clients, anybody who needs our services or has a family member or friend who needs those services. That would be at pregancyclinics.com, pregancyclinics.com. I'm sorry, communitypregancyclinics.com. And then our support side, if someone wants to see our events and see our blogs and so forth and what we're doing in the state of Florida, that would be at supportcpci.com, supportcpci.com. And the other one was communitypregancyclinics.com. We're on Facebook
Fantastic.
and Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn. If you want to follow me on LinkedIn, I'm trying to be active there and just getting the word out around the state of Florida and around the country ultimately.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we are with you all the way. We thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we hope that you'll come back
Sure.
again and give us updates on how things are going and hear more about your.
It's been a pleasure. Tricia, Michelle, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you soon.
All
Oh,
right.
we look, Tricia froze on us again. We might have
Oh,
to sing a little and fill in the space.
you want to do a little Frank
No,
Sinatra?
I can. I'm good for anything. But no, it really has been great to see you again, Scott, and hear all the wonderful things you're doing. I thought it was important to have you on the show because I've see people all the time, and they just, oh, I didn't realize there was another option. And I think the more that we can have yourself and others that are in this journey to come on and explain that there are options, the better.
Absolutely.
It's get the word out, the education out. I mean, as a ultrasound tech of 30 years, there is no denying. I've seen it. You cannot argue with me about it. You could try, but it's not going to work. But a lot of these youngsters, and I'm glad that you're in the schools, are being fed an empty bag of goods. They're being lied to. They're being lied to, and then then they throw at you when they talk about abortion politics, and then you have some of these women saying, "Oh, so if they ban abortion, then if I have an ectopic pregnancy, they're going to just let me die." So it's just all this misinformation, which is what you're going to be you help with, and my big mouth wherever I can do it, I do it. I don't, because and I don't. There's no reason to be silent. People tell you shouldn't be talking about religion and politics, and I think we should all be talking about religion and politics.
What else is there? Right.
Well, if we don't talk about it, then we can't fix it. And communication is a huge part of it, and education is an even bigger part of it. So
Right.
I thank you for coming on tonight. I was actually checking out the results of
Yeah.
Herschel Walker.
What did you find? How does it look?
It's so close. I hope there's not a plumbing accident. They do have Warnock up 49.43% to 48.5%. I should refresh this and see if it's
Is
changed.
Georgia going to be a state where we'll know tonight, or might it be 3 weeks from now?
Well, it depends if there's a plumbing incident. Because
We had a couple of glitches. My apologies. We're also working on getting some up to the minute information on the polls, how they're turning out in Georgia. We're keeping an eye on Fulton County. We know that's been the problematic county before. We're going to try to bring you any breaking news with regard to the Georgia results here very shortly. I believe that we still have Michelle with us. Let me see if I can pop everybody back on for 1 minute. Are you guys still here with us?
There you are.
All right, we had a little glitch. I always like to end on a good note to say thank you to our wonderful guest. God bless Scott Baier in his work. God bless his family. And thank you for joining us. If everybody missed the news that Scott's going to be back on again with us sometime soon to give us more updates and give us information on how we can do even more to help. So thank you again, Scott. We'll say goodbye till next time, and we look forward to it.
God bless
We'll talk
you.
soon.
God
God bless.
you and yours. Bye-bye. Michelle, that was great with
I told you he was awesome.
What tremendous work. That makes me so excited about the steps that we're taking in this country to finally put Roe v. Wade not just on, not just out of business by the Supreme Court decision, but practically speaking, on the ground with changing hearts, changing minds, and making sure that every state is abortion free. So what are some of your thoughts on what Scott had to say?
Well, I mean, I loved everything he had to say. He's spot on. He's correct. He's speaking truth, which is sometimes people want their own truth. They want to have my truth, your truth, not the truth. And like I was telling him when you popped out, I'm really happy that they're reaching the young people because they're being lied to. And that's why they're not making informed decisions. You got a young girl that's 17 years old and they're saying, oh, you're only, 8 weeks pregnant. It's not really a baby. It's just a clump of cells. She then goes ahead and has an abortion because she thinks nothing of it. She's not seeing it even as a human being. But then take them into the office and do a little ultrasound at 8 weeks. There's a heartbeat. You can listen to it. You can see it. I know, and yes, 30 years in the field of ultrasound, subspecializing in obstetrics and gynecology, I will tell you firsthand, there is a baby in there. Okay, don't argue. There is a baby. There's a mother and a baby. And these youngsters need to have the truth, not their truth, not their professor's truth. And they're being lied to. And it's a shame. Or they're being told that, oh, if we ban abortion, then women with ectopic pregnancies will die. Or women with miscarriages or placenta previa will die. No.
That's a totally different issue.
Lies.
Yep. Information and truth is what we need. So that will do it for this episode of We the People. Thank you, Michelle.
Can I give you a Herschel Walker? I have an update.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, we said we're going to be back with breaking news. So please go right ahead.
Well, I don't have. It doesn't look like results are in, but it's at Walker is trailing just by a smidge. He's at 48.5%. Warnock is at 49.4%. And it's a difference of, if I can do math really quick, maybe 30,000 votes, 40,000 votes. No, 35. It's close.
Right. Does it say there what percent of precincts are reporting?
Well, this was last updated at 8:05.
Okay. And it might have like a little percentage on the left. If not, no worries. We will keep you posted because, the way the weighting goes, if we get to a certain tipping point with percent of precincts reporting, we'll be able to say pretty clearly if it's that close, it looks like we're in for a possibly bumpy night. And all eyes on Fulton County because we have.
Well, I mean, if you look at what the map looks like right now, it
What's
looks. Oh, can you see the map? Oh, my phone, maybe.
Pull it back a little bit. Yep.
It's very red. But Fulton County was what you were asking about?
Yeah, Fulton County, I think, is where we have to keep our sights because Fulton County is where they had the overflow in 2020, and they stopped the counting, and then surprise, surprise, came up with all these extra votes for Biden. We have to. We're hoping that does not happen with Warnock this time.
Yeah. Well, we shall see. We
Yep.
shall see.
Yep. So we
So,
will pop in if there's something that's breaking news that we can report. But once again, we're so happy and grateful that you chose to spend this time with us tonight. Our regular time is typically Wednesday at 7 p.m. We had a very special episode tonight for Tuesday, and we're probably going to be, barring any breaking news, we're going to be off till the first of the year. So again, if something pops up that we want to jump in and share, we'll always do that for breaking news. But for now, this will be the last broadcast of the year. So I'd like to take this opportunity to officially wish you all a very Merry Christmas. Christmas blessings to you and your family. And I know, Michelle, I'm sure you'd like to share some Christmas thoughts as well.
yes, I hope everybody has a very Merry Christmas. Many blessings. Enjoy your families. Enjoy all that delicious food, and enjoy the celebration of the birth of Christ.
Absolutely. May the peace of Christ be with you and your family today and always. We'll see
Amen.
you. Amen. We'll see you next time and next year. All right. Take care. God
Bye-bye.
bless you all. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.